Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you guys had a great spring break and you were able to get outside and enjoy the wonderful weather. Um, this week, we are going to focus on writing nonfiction summaries. So if you take a look at our current unit, we have completed learning central idea and details and practicing finding those in different types of nonfiction passages. So today we are going to focus on writing nonfiction summaries. So my hope is that by the end of the week, we will be, done with writing nonfiction summaries and be, really excellent nonfiction summary writers. And then we can move on next week to nonfiction text structures. So, I just wanted to show you the overview of where we're going. So let's keep moving here. Lesson essential question, of course, how do I write an objective summary? And if you remember, way back when we wrote fiction summaries, we also wrote objective summaries. So let's review a few terms first, okay? So a summary, remember, that's a brief statement of the main points. We already know that. Objective means not to include any opinions. So we're not including our opinions, feelings, or beliefs in this summary. Okay, it's purely factual. And then one more term that you're going to come in contact with probably here very often throughout the next few years is expository. Okay, it's just a fancy word for informational. Okay, so if something is informational text, like a textbook or a news article, it's called an expository text. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that expository is just a fancy word for informational. Okay. So the first thing I want to do for you today is step number 1. So whenever you have a text that you know you're going to have to summarize or analyze, even if it's a poem, and we've done this with poetry, the first thing you want to do is you want to read it thoroughly, and you want to reread it, and you want to annotate. So you might want to highlight some things in the passage and then write little notes in the margin. So I'm going to show you today how to do this, and you're going to go ahead and do this along with me today. I have attached a PowerPoint slide. A Word document, not a PowerPoint slide, a Word document that has a table and it's already cut up for you. So it's really easy to annotate this right along with me. So if you need to do like a side-by-side screen and open up today's assignment, your Word document, and put it right on the right side and then put the video on the left side, you can do that. Or you can toggle back and forth, whatever you're more comfortable with. But when we do things like this, it's really nice to be able to do it together, even though we're not in the classroom. And this is a kind of nice way to do that. Okay. So let me just exit out of this screen and put up the document. So the first thing to do is to just read the entire piece of text all together. So you can see I've put this into a table to make it easier to annotate with me today. And that's not typical. You're not going to have your article broken up into paragraphs in a table like this. But you should have paragraphs, and you can write in the margin. And you're going to see that in some of the other activities that we do later this week. Okay, so this article is called Malaria. And I'm going to just go ahead and read it first. Mama Berta lives in a village in the African country of Tanzania. She cares for her 3 grandchildren who are 2, 5, and 7 years old. You might be surprised to learn that her biggest worry is something very tiny, mosquitoes. Though tiny, mosquitoes in Africa pose a big danger. Many of them carry a parasite that causes a disease called malaria. When one of those mosquitoes bites a person, the parasite gets into the person's bloodstream and makes them very sick. In many parts of Asia, Europe, and the Americas, this awful disease is under control or simply gone. But in Africa, where malaria is still a big problem, the insects spread the disease quickly and easily. In the past year, Beatrice, age 2, has had malaria twice. She was lucky because she survived. A child dies every 30 seconds in Africa from malaria. 3,000 die every day. Adults die too, and many others get very, very sick with headaches, fever, and vomiting. One time, Beatrice had to spend a week in the hospital. But a program called Malaria No More has an answer: mosquito nets. The organization gives the nets to families. One net is big enough for 2 or 3 family members to sleep under. Most of the mosquitoes which carry malaria come out between 10 at night and 4 in the morning. The bed nets stop the mosquitoes from getting through so they can't bite. And nets are treated with chemicals that makes the mosquitoes stay away and kill them on contact. So these nets protect people from malaria while they are sleeping. Malaria No More gave Mama Berta a net to hang over the children's bed. The mosquito net not only means healthy children who are strong enough to play and learn, but a grandmother who can rest a little easier, knowing they are safe, says Martin Edlund of Malaria No More. We have vaccines to protect us from many diseases, but so far no one has been able to develop one for malaria. Until then, Malaria No More and other organizations are working hard to teach African families how to protect themselves from mosquitoes and stay well. So, of course, you read the entire article, okay? And then we're going to go back up to the top and we're going to reread the paragraph. And then we're going to kind of highlight a few things that are important, okay? So in the first paragraph, we have the fact that Mama Berta lives in a village in an African country of Tanzania. So I'm going to actually highlight African country of Tanzania because that's kind of important. That's a kind of an important place. That's where this whole article is talking about Africa. And then biggest worry and is mosquitoes. So the biggest worry for her in Africa is these mosquitoes, right? So this is then going to help me when I go over here to type. So I will go ahead and type, in Africa, people worry about mosquitoes. That's basically what that paragraph is saying. In Africa, people worry about mosquitoes, okay? And we're being very general here. Do we need to really write anything specific about Mama Berta? Probably not, okay? Because the whole article isn't mainly about Mama Berta. It's mainly about the mosquitoes and the malaria, all right? So we have to keep that in the back of our mind. We don't want those little details, okay? We want the big picture, all right? So we're going to continue through this article a paragraph at a time. We're going to highlight important things from the paragraph, and then we're going to type, or typically it would be writing in the margin, okay, if you have this out on paper. And you're going to do this with me, okay? So you can do one of two things, okay? You can either do this side by side, you can toggle back and forth, or you can wait until I'm completely done and you can go back and then fill your graphic organizer in. I guess it's the article, annotate your article, okay? So what you really want to remember is that this needs to be done today, okay? So you have to have your own. You do not want to submit this because we need to use this tomorrow when we go to create our graphic organizer and write our summary, okay? So again, you're going to follow through with this with me today and create your own Word document. Open up your assignment and create your own Word document and just keep it on your iPad because you're going to use that then tomorrow for the next steps in writing your summary, okay? Let's continue on. Though tiny, mosquitoes in Africa pose a big danger. Mosquitoes pose a big danger. So just highlighting the important stuff here, okay? It causes a disease called malaria. When one of the mosquitoes bites a person, the parasite gets into the bloodstream and makes them very sick. So this is how this happens. So the parasite gets into the person's bloodstream and makes them very sick, okay? So then we're going to write parasites and mosquitoes can cause the disease malaria, all right? So that's taking kind of what we have highlighted there and putting it together in a real nutshell, okay? Moving on to the next paragraph. In many parts of Asia, Europe, and the Americas, this awful disease is under control or gone. But in Africa, malaria is still a big problem, okay? It's still a big problem in Africa. All right, so that's what I think is important there, and I'm going to go ahead and put in this disease is still a big problem. All right, let's see if I can move that off to the side there. All right, so the next paragraph. In the past year, Beatrice, age 2, has had malaria twice. She was lucky because she survived. Oh, a child dies every 30 seconds from malaria. 3,000 die every day. Wow, that's pretty amazing. That's a lot of people. So I am going to put here, many people die every day from malaria, because that's a lot, all right? All right, so make sure that you have the first 4 paragraphs filled out before we move on to the last half of this article. So take a moment to do that. I'm just going to put that up. Those are the first 4 paragraphs, making sure that you transfer all that information to your document. Okay, so if you look at the last part of this article, I have taken these 3 paragraphs and I've lumped them all together. And I only put one thing over here. And there's a reason for that. These 3 paragraphs are all about the same thing. So here we have that there is a program called Malaria No More. This organization gives nets to families. I think that's pretty important, okay? The nets protect people from malaria while they're sleeping, okay? And that's basically, this is still talking about Malaria No More and how they gave, Mama Berta a net to keep her children safe. So this is all, these 3 paragraphs are all talking about nets helping people to stay safe from mosquitoes. And that's just the main idea. So remember, if there's multiple paragraphs that have the same message, you don't need to write something for each of them, all right? So this is something like this would be just fine. You could even bracket this if you were, writing in your margin, put a bracket in there and then write this little blurb on the margin of your paper, okay? And then finally, we have this last final paragraph. So we have vaccines, right, to protect us from diseases. So we have some vaccines, all right, but there isn't one. Okay, it says, but there isn't one for malaria. Okay, so that's pretty concerning. All right, so I put here that there are no vaccines for malaria. All right, so that makes it even a bigger problem. Okay, like we know that we already have vaccines for the coronavirus. Well, guess what? This has been a problem for a long time, and there's still no vaccine for malaria. Okay, so make sure that you have the bottom half of this organizer highlighted and typed the main ideas or the central ideas in your document, okay? And remember, we're not turning that in, okay?